Very good. Well, I think we are all here, and it is 6 o'clock, so I will call the meeting to order. I must do a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, I need to inform anyone who's in this meeting that it's an open meeting and it's being conducted via remote participation. There were no members gathered physically at any location altogether. Members of the public may attend this meeting virtually by accessing the link which we did publish in the meeting notice and agenda. And we are being recorded, so beware that this is a recorded meeting, and the recording will be posted on the city website as soon as feasible. And when we vote, we need to vote by roll call because of the virtual protocol here. So I will spare you all saying here when I call your name, but I see present at this meeting Mahesh Patel, David Pierce, welcome, Diane Mangiarati, Beth Gould, Toby Reed, Tricia Svensson, Judy Lusk, Cynthia Lawrence, and myself, Charles Oliver. So welcome everyone. Do we have any guests from staff, Amy? I don't see any.
We don't. We are expecting someone, but I don't see them yet.
Okay, when you see them, just please introduce them to us all.
You got it?
We are ready to go. So we have a presentation to lead off by our Eagle Scout candidate, or are you already an Eagle?
Working on Eagle Scout project.
Okay, that's what I thought. So tell us about your project and anything else you'd like us to hear, and welcome from all of us.
All right, sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name's Guhan. 17 years old. I live in North Attleboro, and I'm a member of Troop 23, Boy Scout troop based in this town. And also, I'd like to say that myself and my sister have benefited from all the programs at the Attleboro Public Library, and we've been visiting this particular library and many others since we're little kids, and we benefited from all the programs there, book clubs, all kinds of events and activities that we've done there. And obviously, none of those events would have been made possible without you guys. So thank you for that. It's great. Thank you for a great childhood. And now, Amy, so would you like me to present my presentation myself, or do you have it on lock somewhere?
I do not have it here, and I'm just looking now to see if you are able to share the screen. Do you want to, can you share your screen?
Let me see here. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
So I'll just open this up and then I'll present. Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, that pesky host. Nope, now you got my screen. Try it now, Guhan.
All right. Let's see here. Yep, it works.
Great.
Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. So this will be a proposal for my Eagle Scout project. And I'll talk about what it's going to entail and why it would be a worthy investment. So wait, let me see here. Oh. All right, so I'm going to describe the project for you guys in case, I'm sure many of you have already seen LFLs in various places in the community, but I'll explain to you what they are and what role they're going to have in my project. So my project is going to involve the construction of 4 little free libraries. They're constructions of what are essentially bookcases attached to posts that are stationed at various locations with books, and they're going to be for the public who might not have much access to an actual public library in Attleboro. They have glass doors, interior shelves for storing books. They'll be stationed on grass located in open park spaces, and they'll be clearly visible in spacious areas. So the beneficiaries of the project will be obviously the people of Attleboro, right? This LFL is for them, and the books in it are for them. The Attleboro Public Library and also the Parks and Forestry Department. And later on, I'm going to get to how I've gotten them involved in the project, how they're helping me, and also why they'll be helped, because it'll be on their space, in their park space. So benefits to the Attleboro Public Library, right? Obviously, it's going to have the name of the library on the LFLs, on all 4 of them. It'll be promoting its agenda. It'll be essentially signposts for the library, advertise them. And also it augments the service of the library by providing access to books for a section of the population in the town, in the city of Attleboro, which might not visit the library that often. And it'll forever be an asset of the library and its complete control and utility after my project's completion. Because obviously, after this project, I'll be finishing high school and then later on, pretty soon going off to college, most likely leaving town, maybe being somewhere else in the state or outside. So this is an overview of its construction, and just here right now is a diagram of the front of it. 2-shelf library, optional side shelf for decoration, right, which would be right here. Drawings are obviously not to scale, so consider that. Yeah, this right here, this picture right here, this is an actual LFL that's been constructed, but that's very similar to this diagram shown right here. This is an example of a decorated LFL, and that's actually what I'm going for. I'm going to decorate my little free libraries and give them themes, which I'll be getting into later on. Right here, this person, whoever constructed this little free library, basically made a collage of different book covers and also magazine covers. I can see here, I can see Mad magazine. These are examples of installed little free libraries in the town, actually. And I've actually talked to the owners of each of these little free libraries right here in Rehoboth. I met a woman named Joanne, very nice. She took me through the LFL, explained what it looked like. This one's pretty big. This one right here is Capron Park. Obviously, they used a tree stump. They just put it on top of the tree stump. And I talked to the people who had constructed that. It's not as wide as the one in Rehoboth, but it has obviously you can't see it from the front, but on the side it is pretty spacious. It's pretty wide on the side, so it has a lot of room. So basically, my little free libraries are all going to be themed around specific genres, and one of them will be themed around the genre of science fiction, another one will be themed around the genre of fantasy. Both of those are my favorite genres to read and also watch in movies and television. Basically, I'm gonna have one of the aspects of the theme, in the decorative aspect of the theme, will be obviously designs, but also I'll have some more informational things, such as this right here, which will be a laminated paper. Text will be pasted outside surfaces of the LFL with information on the science fiction or fantasy text inside, as well as further resources, places to find other books in those genres. And it'll be, me talking. It'll be written by me, obviously. Talking about. It's not like I'm copy and pasting something from, like some book summaries or anything like that. It'll be about the science fiction fantasy books that I've initially put inside of the LFLs, and I'll be talking about my thoughts on them, why I like them, who I recommend them to. Also write about the function and the rules of the LFL. So yeah, inside the LFL will be books related to the theme, some of which are purposely placed on the top shelf, and few are meant to be returned. Below will be other books of the theme, and that'll be on there on a take a science fiction book, leave a science fiction book basis. And then below that will be books that are loosely connected to the genre of the LFL or not connected at all. They'll be for all age ranges, because it's obviously safer, because it's not a guarantee that every single person that comes across. Actually, it's a guarantee that you're going to get people who come across a little free library that are not going to be interested in this particular theme. And obviously, we want to make this accessible for the community, and so I think it would be wise to have a bottom section, just basically miscellaneous items, and have random things for all ages. Because obviously I want kids to be interested in these LFLs. And on the top shelf, because obviously, that's how you instill, that's usually where, reading habits and library visiting habits come from a young age usually. And the people who go to visit libraries often have been doing so since they were young. On the top shelf, I'll have a guest book for people to express their thoughts and suggestions for the LFL. Be encouraged to write about the books they read in the LFL or about the LFL's genre. Yeah, these are some examples of required books. Basically, these are some of my favorite books ever. And I'll be having them. And some of these are fantasy, like this right here, Harry Potter, obviously Lord of the Rings. Those will be in the fantasy stuff. Martian, 1984, Ender's Game, and then Dune, which is my favorite book ever. They'll be in the science fiction LFL. Obviously, it's not guaranteed that everyone belonging to the public is going to respect the intention of the theme. Maybe over time, as people are taking out more books from there and putting more books in, maybe more books will be there that are loosely connected than are super specific to the theme. But at the end of the day, books are being distributed and reading will be encouraged. The themes in the books inside relating to those themes are only there to spur something. Basically, if the right person comes along, then they will gravitate to an LFL because it speaks to their interests and awakens an interest in them. Because I think this would be better for the community than a more generic LFL like others that I've seen, which are just there with random books. Because I think usually when you have something that's supposed to draw in a specific audience, you get a stronger reaction. And so maybe from a wider general public, there might not be a ton of interest, but just because you've gravitated to and attracted a specific demographic, a specific interest, you're going to get a stronger reaction. And therefore, more people will be interested in these LFLs and in the books inside of them. Construction will begin in the spring of 2021. I've actually, 3 LFLs have already been put together in the workshop of my project advisor. And we're going to be working on 2 more. Well, one of them is half completed, but he's been using power tools put together. Obviously, some steps have to be taken care of, some design plans. And also, I spoke with Derek Coursey, who is the controller of the Attleboro Department of Parks and Forestry, and they've offered up basically any part of their park jurisdiction that doesn't already have an LFL as fair game. And I've toured these various places. You can tell because they all have grass. I've gone with my dad. We've driven around, taken pictures of them, compared them, and obviously these are places that are visited pretty often by people in the community. So definitely a good location for these LFLs. And basically, like I really do strongly believe that having these specific themes are going to draw more interest from people because there'll be more of a personality to them. And even with actual books and movies, I think it's pretty common to see movies and books that are targeted towards specific audiences and are clearly tailored and made for specific kinds of people or interests. Usually, those are the types of movies that usually blow up and become extremely successful. More so, also in the culture than books and movies that are more generic and meant to just kind of entice as many people as possible and please as many people as possible. And those movies are usually, even if they are financially successful, they're forgotten about pretty quickly. So I really do think an LFL that is specific to something like science fiction or fantasy, and that's the personality around it, I really think that'll attract a certain demographic. Further timeline. So basically what I'm planning for is I hope that during the summer, what I'm going to do is I've been working with my project advisor. We've been shopping at Lowe's. We've already have 2 constructed, got to put things together. My Boy Scout, and then I'll have people from my Boy Scout troop help paint it, help with the design. And then all we're going to do is we're going to give the LFL we're just going to hand it over to the Department of Parks and Forestry, and they're going to take care of the installation all by themselves. And I might have a book drive, although I think at this point, probably not, just because I know that I already have different parties with a pretty vast reserves of books at our public library. It won't be hard to get my hands on books for these LFLs, but I'm definitely planning for the construction and installation to be wrapped up before before my summer vacation ends this year, before school starts. I think, and also that just goes along with my schedule and everything that I'm planning to do. Volunteer work, it's just going to be 20 scouts on any given construction day. Also friends and other interested people, could include library people and NFL owners I talk to. I'm going to use, I've already talked to an adult from my troop who's in charge of a workshop, a factory, and there they use programs like CAD and CAM. They're software programs that basically create designs for three-dimensional objects. I'm going to be doing that. Materials, hammers, nails, pressure-treated plywood sheets, which I've already gotten, weather strips, magnets, solar lights, basically, stand out in the at night when it's darker, and also to, it's a way of powering the lights there. Spare face mask for construction, paper plates. I'm going to be serving. That's a pretty common thing with Eagle Scout projects. You give pizza to everyone who comes, but you give it after the work is done, because if you give pizza to 12-year-olds before the work, they're going to be all sluggish and less motivated. So, garbage bags, soda bottles, plastic cups, first aid kit, glue, spray paint, all that. Storage containers, toolboxes, at least one automobile, which my dad will take care of. Power tools, which are already at my project advisor's workshop, drills, hammers, nails. And also, no permits were needed. I've already talked about how Derek Corsi has basically offered up any part of the park jurisdiction that doesn't already have an LFL as fair game. No permits required from the city of Attleboro. Department of Parks and Forestry, they're on it. They'll take care of it for me. They're going to confirm the locations. They'll have to seek final approval from the city, but according to Derek, they'll probably say yes since they've already approved other LFLs. So my job ends with construction. The department will just take complete control of the installation from there. And obviously, I'm going to work with the department to identify locations for the LFLs. Preliminary cost estimate. A lot of this has already been purchased. Project phases, these are all the things that have been completed. And these are some of the things that, right now I'm doing part 9 right now. So logistics, automobile transport. I've toured the factory where the designs and the tools for the designs that I'm going to be using. Those are the ones that are there. And how I'm going to use them, I've already toured the factory, and I'm in contact with Mr. Sharples. So that's taken care of. I've toured sites with Derek Corsi, and also I've toured other parts like, public parks, tea gardens with my dad. LFL construction shouldn't take too long. Decoration shouldn't take more than a month. Installations will be happening in the summer. If needed, a book drive will be finished in the summer. And also publicity will be arranged during the summer alongside other installations. When I met with Joanne, right, she was the lady in Rehoboth with the really wide LFL. She actually told me about basically where she was living, where the LFL was her home, which actually used to be where she would run her wedding business. That was, huge expansive field for weddings. And she's been in touch with someone who basically worked as a DJ at those weddings, who now works for a radio station in Attleboro. And basically she said that she can get me in contact with this guy, and he can arrange some publicity for the LFL. And with Amy, I've already talked about the TV station that's a few blocks down from the library. So that will be taken care of. And that's it. I really do think this is going to help the library out. It'll forever be an asset of the public library. And that's even with the programs that I went to when I was a younger kid, things that had personality, things that were tailored toward a specific thing, those were the things that were really interesting to me. Those are the ones that are the most memorable to me. And I mean, science fiction fantasy has a loyal fan base. And also the two others will be centered around some other themes as well. Probably some nonfiction genres, maybe mystery, thrillers, genres like that. But I really strongly believe that that kind of theme, personalized LFL will be more attractive to your average pedestrian, someone in the public who's walking by, and it's going to draw in more of a crowd from specific interests. So yeah, that's my presentation.
Very good. Thank you very much. What would you like from the library?
Essentially, I'm just asking for sponsorship.
Okay. How many of these are you going to produce?
4.
4. Okay. And you haven't selected all of the locations yet?
Not yet, but they're going to be in, in the parks jurisdiction, tea gardens, places like that. But it's all fair game.
You might consider the somewhere around the commuter rail station.
Oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Just a thought. But
Yeah, because people will be coming in trains, and people do visit that area pretty often.
I was going to suggest South Attleboro. I don't know if they already have one, but I don't know if they've ever gotten over losing their South Attleboro branch of the library. So it might be a nice location.
Yes, that's a good idea. Of Attleboro.
all right. Very well. So we have a copy of your plan. We will have a little chat about it later on, and we can communicate with you by email. We do have business, unfortunately, that we have to take care of, so we're going to have to limit our discussion time. But if we can be in touch with you and pass along any questions that we have, does anyone have any concerns?
I just have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I just wanted to say how I thought it was a wonderful idea. We have one in our neighborhood that one of the neighbors had suggested, and everybody put it together, and it's functioning well. And it says on it, take a book, leave a book. Now, I don't know if that's what Guhan has in mind. Is that what you were planning, or
Yeah, so one of the earlier slides where I talked about the function and the layout of the shelves, basically right now I'm thinking the top shelf will be books that, we'll work on an honor system. It's like you have to respect it. Basically, this is pretty important to the theme, so return it after you're done with it. But the bottom shelf, which is going to be wider, I'm pretty sure, and taller, so it'll fit more books. That part will be working on a take a book, leave a book function.
But it's a great idea, and I think I had you in Spanish class.
Tricia?
Remember.
I just wonder about the longevity. Obviously, you move on in life. What do you see as the maintenance of a little library? How do you see that making it continue to be what it is? Whether it should need cleanup, whether it gets emptied out and somebody needs to be responsible for refilling it in case the public doesn't come to the rescue?
Right. So that's a very good question. So basically what I've talked about with Amy is towards the end of the project, I'm going to be searching for patrons and people to basically oversee the Little Free Library and make sure that's run well. But at the end of the day, after the project is over, it's completely in control of the public library. So it's completely theirs to do whatever they want with it. They have all the freedom. And also, Diane, I do think you were my Spanish teacher in 7th grade. I thought you looked very familiar, but I wasn't entirely sure. I was Pedro, remember? That was my Spanish name, Pedro.
Hola.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Also, I'll say my work ethic has gotten a lot better.
What did you say? I didn't hear that.
I said my work ethic has gotten a lot better since 7th grade.
Oh. Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Nice to see you.
All right,
Oh,
very,
yeah.
very good. Well,
Thank you so much.
If I could say thank you for all of us, we're grateful, A, that you've been a patron of the library for so long, and B, that you had an Eagle project which involved us. That's awesome. And I think most every Eagle project is something to get behind and support, and we'll do our very best to do that. And we'll work out the particulars outside of this meeting, since we have lots of things we have to deal with this evening. But thank you very much. Expect to hear from us, and we're behind you.
That sounds great. Yeah. Yeah, I chose to do a project for a library because libraries have been really important to me. Ever since I was a little kid, my mom would take me a lot, and I've benefited from some of my best childhood memories, honestly, are from the library. And it's, provided me with so many books that have shaped me and instilled a love of reading in me and made me a writer. So I wanted to give back. So thank you so much for giving me this forum and this opportunity to share my project with you guys.
Excellent. Thanks, Guhan.
Thank you, Gohan. Thank
All
you.
right. Very good.
Charlie, can I quickly introduce some staff that have joined us?
Yes, please.
So Carol Waite just joined us, and Katie Butler is here as well.
Welcome, Carol and Katie. Nice to have you on board. We have other guests tonight. We have Rockland Trust here to present their portfolio review. David and Cynthia, we do this a couple of times a year routinely. They've been doing a great job with managing our endowments, which we lean on. So sit back and watch the show. You've all gotten a copy of this report. I think I sent it out to you yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. I forget. But hope you've had a chance to look. Welcome to Paula Murphy, Portfolio Manager, and Mary Friel, our Relationship Manager. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. That was a great presentation. You might find that a little more interesting than the one we're about to do, but hopefully you all have the presentation in front of you. And we have just the second page of the packet. It's just sort of a little summary. In the middle of the page, we do a little recap of the current value of the library account and the investment objective, which is the same that it has been, which is a balanced investment objective. We'll look a little bit more in detail at that further on in the presentation, but you're basically around 60% in equity, 40% in fixed income. And before Paula actually jumps into the economic slides that are part of the presentation, I just wanted to check to see, and maybe Charlie, this is directed at you. I know you're on mute now, but if there's any cash needs that you know of that are coming up, I know you have your draws and they're usually not huge amounts of money, but if there's anything coming up that we should know about.
The only thing I was crunching a few numbers this afternoon, and when we get to the end of our fiscal year, we look at our budget and we make sure that we have spent enough on materials, which is a critical part of the formula by which we get state aid. So there'll be some catch up that typically happens in the month of June. So if I were to look at our budget versus what we've spent so far, I would bet that somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 will possibly need to be moved into our account
Okay.
by the end of June. So
Okay.
you can pencil that number in, and maybe it won't be quite that much.
Okay.
There are no other
Great.
major expenditures.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Thanks. And if before Paula starts, does anybody have any questions or anything for us before we get started? We'll just jump right in.
All right, thanks, Mary. Hello, everyone. I think you all have the presentation that we sent. And generally what we do is we review what's going on in the market and the economy, kind of general updates, and then move on to the specifics of the portfolio. So if we look at page 3, and on page 3 in the upper left-hand corner, you should see the title, the S&P 500 index for the last 10 years. So that's what we're looking at here is the chart of the S&P. And you can see the last 10 years have been very good. If you look on the left and then over on the right where we are now, even with the very strong bear market that we had this time last year. So if you see the 2020 section and you see that down market there, we were down about 33% from February 19th to March 23rd of last year, but we have recovered nicely. And that recovery is just about a year in. If you look at page 4, you can see with the shorter time period what the recovery has done. So like I said, over on the left, that was the prior bottom. And in September, we actually were down 10%. Down 10% is an official correction. And then we went back to our bull market. So it has certainly been an interesting 13 months where we've seen a bear market, a bull market, a correction, and back to a bull market. So aside from everything going on with the pandemic, the market has also had a lot of volatility. And what was interesting in 2020 was the largest 5 stocks in the S&P 500 were up 56%. The other 495 stocks were only up 11. So there was a really big disparity between the largest 5 stocks, which make up about 25% of the index, and the rest of the index. That has shifted this year. And if you look at page 5, you can see that the top 5, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, this year only up about 1.5%, and the other 495 up 7.5%. So we did see a shift out of the big momentum stocks. Similarly, in 2020, growth stocks, which are things like those 5, significantly outperformed value stocks. And that has also reversed course. However, if you look at page 6, the last 5 years have been the worst 5 years for value stocks versus growth stocks. That again may be shifting because this year value is up 11 and growth is up less than 1. So there have been a lot of shifts in the market, which is really not uncommon when you have this type of volatility and these types of large swings. And then if you look at the economy in general, we can look at a number of different facets of economic activity. And on page 7, there's 5 or 6 here as examples. The top 2 lines here, and if you look, there's a line in the middle of this graph, 0%, and 0% gets you back to where you were at the pre-pandemic. And there's 2 lines above that, which are mortgage applications and consumer debit and credit transactions. So those types of businesses came back pretty quickly, even during some of the shutdowns. The businesses that haven't, which I'm sure is no surprise to everyone, things like hotels and travel and dining and airline traffic, they have really not come back to where they were prior to the pandemic. The thought is that those will come back by the end of this year, which will get us back to a growing economy where we were beginning of 2020. So that's the hope. At the end of this year, we're kind of back to where we were 2 years ago. And how that translates to overall economic growth is on page 8. So here we're looking at GDP, which is gross domestic product. So this is essentially the accumulation of all goods and services produced in the United States. And if you look at the last 4 bars on the right, things below 0 are the economy contracting, and above 0 is the economy growing. So first and second quarter of this year were both negative, of 2020, sorry. -4 for first quarter, -32 for the second quarter. So obviously when everything shut down, the economy basically shut down as well. Third quarter, you can see we're up about 35%, and fourth quarter up 4%. However, even with those 2 good quarters, we are still not back to where we were. And you can see on page 9, if you look on the left-hand side here, you can see GDP growth. We had been averaging 2.5%. And then there's the decline, and then where we've come back to. So you can see we still have a ways to go to get back to that blue dotted line to get us back on the 2.5% trajectory. And again, the hope is at the end of this year that brownish line moves its way up to the dotted blue line, and we're back to where we were before all of the health issues came upon us. Last year, if you look at the year in total, the economy contracted by over 4%. And just to put that in context, during the 2008, 2009 recession, the economy only contracted 2.8. So this was certainly very severe. And it's had a big effect on employment, as you might imagine. On page 10 here, there's a couple lines on this graph. The darker brownish line is the unemployment rate, and the blue line is wage growth. So if you look here over on the right at the brownish line, unemployment this time last year was 14%. And the good news is that number is down to about 6% now. However, we were at 3%. So we still need to get back down to about that 3% level. And then wage growth, we had been above average trending wage growth. You can see that blue line at the beginning of 2020 was well over its average, and that has come down as well. This has become the Federal Reserve's primary objective right now, is to get us back to the unemployment where we were before. And if you look at the next page, this is what they're trying to compensate for, which was that we had lost 22 million jobs and we've only regained 12 million. So we're still 10 million jobs short. And that's really what the Fed is trying to do with their interest rate policy. And their interest rate policy, you can see on page 12. And what this policy is the federal funds rate is the rate that the Federal Reserve sets for both short-term borrowing and short-term savings. So if you look on the right, they have brought that back to close to zero. And the reason they did that is because they want businesses to be able to borrow money very cheaply. So the easier and cheaper it is for businesses to borrow, the thought is then they can retain their workers or hire more workers. It unfortunately has the opposite effect if you're a saver. As you're probably all aware, your checking and savings accounts right now really are not earning very much interest. If you have a CD, it doesn't earn very much interest. And it's really because everything is based off of this rate. So this is very good if you're a borrower, but not so great if you're a saver, which is why right now you really wouldn't want to have a lot of assets in your short-term kind of cash equivalent buckets because they're really not going to earn very much income. The Fed has said they're going to leave this rate, and you can see here over on the right, there's projections here, the Federal Reserve leaving this rate till 2023. So that would mean we would have cheap borrowing for another 2.5 or 2 3/4 years here. The only thing that would maybe make the Fed move quicker is the next page, which is inflation. So there's a couple of lines here. The blue line are all consumer items, and the green line is if you remove food and energy, which we refer to as core. And the reason we use that core sometimes is you'll notice that's a lot less volatile. It's more stable. But whether you look at core or you look at all items, we're below 2%, and the 2% target is what the Fed has set. So right now, inflation is not very severe. It probably will tick up to close to the 2% level by the end of this month. The Fed believes, however, that's going to be transitory, and it's because we're off such a low base. Obviously, last year in April, there was no inflation because nobody was buying anything. So there was no increases to prices. So the Fed is thinking this will be short term, but that we will be able to stay around that 2% for a couple of years, and that they will be able to keep rates low and continue to push the economy. Manufacturing has gotten much better, and the next chart shows you across the globe how manufacturing has been. When we look at this chart here, if something is green, it's growing. If something is red, it's contracting. So you'll see over on the right-hand side, a lot of red in 2020. So almost every country across the globe at that point was contracting. And then as you go through 2020, you get more green. And then you can see more of the February and March numbers green, particularly in the US, the UK, the Eurozone, Germany, and a couple of the Asian countries as well. So things across the globe are improving. And similar story on the next page, just looking at GDP across the globe, which is also improving. So things are certainly getting better. And the hope is, like I said, by the end of this year, we're kind of back where we started. Any questions on big picture? If not, we can move to page 16, which is the library portfolio. And this pie chart here is looking at specific asset classes in the portfolio. The largest asset class right now is the US large cap stock, and that's at 33.7% with the blue piece of pie. If we move around clockwise at 26.4%, we have high quality US bonds. At just under 17%, we have some diversifying funds. These are things like mid cap, gold, master limited partnerships, real estate. Then we have 10% in diversifying bond funds. These are things like inflation protected bonds, high yield bonds. Then we have international equity at 9%, international fixed income at 2.5%, and then our cash and equivalents at just about 1%. So as Mary indicated, right now, the portfolio is just under 60% equity and just over 40% fixed income. We have a target of 55-45. The market has been very strong and we've been trimming the equities, but we do let them run a little bit, but we'll probably be trimming them in the next couple of months to get us back closer to that mid-50s range. Any questions on the asset allocation? Oh, Charlie, are you speaking?
There we go. Okay. I've got my screen split and I couldn't get the mute button to work. Anyway,
Sure.
no, my question was, are you content with, for our purposes, the asset allocation as we have it right now with the 55% guideline? I realize it's run a little bit and that's not a bad thing, but.
Yes, I think this still continues to make sense, given that we know we have distributions, like you were saying, Charlie, things have to come out of this portfolio, right? That's what this is for. So given the amount of the distributions, this allocation makes sense because we have a little over half of the portfolio growing to provide for your future needs. And then another half of the portfolio, just less than half of the portfolio, generating income for current needs and a hedge if we were to be in a down market for a prolonged period of time. That maroonish piece at 26.5, which is about $465,000, is a nice hedge. So I think this makes sense and would be quite comfortable that we could provide for your liquidity needs for a number of years, even if we were in a prolonged downturn. Not that we foresee that, but we didn't foresee last year either. So I think it's got a lot of different asset classes that can protect, but still provide for growth.
Any other trustees have questions? Okay, carry on.
All righty, so we can then look at how the portfolio has performed on page 17. These numbers are through March 31st. This is something that we run on a monthly basis. So if we look at the top row where we see total fund, at the end of March, the portfolio value was $1.7 million. For the last 2 months, the portfolio, so meaning February and March, was up 2.83. For the year to date, the portfolio was up 368. For the last 12 months, it was up 28.31. And then 3 years annualized, just under 9.5, 5 years annualized, just over 8. And then since we began the portfolio in March of 2013, we've averaged 7.2%. And I can let you know, 7.2 is higher than we would expect a portfolio like this, almost by probably 200 basis points. We would expect a portfolio like this to be maybe 5.5. So we are certainly running kind of above average as far as a trend. And if we look at that 1 year column, the 2831, we can see how that was derived. If you go down that column to the first row below total fund that says fixed income, where we had $687,000, the fixed income generated just under 5% last year. And then keep going down, about halfway down, you see equity of $1,028,000. The equities generated 49%. So really strong equity numbers that generated the majority of the return at 49%. And then there's a whole bunch of other numbers here, just showing you how different subsectors did and how some of the indices did. So there is a lot of data here. If anybody has questions or would like to review in any more detail, just I'll pause here in case anyone would like to comment. If everyone has,
Paula, are you still equal weighting in the different equity sectors? Is
good
that
question. So we are actually going to start, we are right now, but we are actually going to transition a bit away from the equal weight sector. And we're still going to be diversified across all sectors. But instead of the 10% across 10 sectors, we're going to add an element to that, which looks at earnings. So as you know, Charlie, the reason we had done the 10-10-10 was we were afraid of bubbles, right? Afraid of the 2000 tech bubble, afraid of the 2007 financial bubble. So what we're going to do is look at the last 8 quarters of earnings, the forward 4 quarters of earnings, and weight the sectors based on the contribution from earnings. That way, if we think that there is a bubble coming, we should see that in the earnings and be able to kind of avoid bubbles that way instead of just the straight 10-10-10. So we think that this is an enhancement that will give us even a finer tuning of looking for bubbles and kind of avoiding bubbles but before they burst. So we are in the process right now of structuring that. And the way we're going to do that is we're looking at it now. And so we have what we want our new sector weights to be. So during 2021, we will transition kind of into those sectors, doing trades programmatically throughout the year to get us to that by the end of the year. So as you know, we don't like to ever make any kind of drastic move, so that it'll be a gradual move. And with the same, still high quality, still doing our quality screen on the Russell to get to our 300 buy list with what the 300 highest quality company, still looking at valuation, still lower beta than the S&P. So all of those tenets of our philosophy will remain the same.
great? Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions at this point? All right, carry on.
All righty. Page 18, I think Mary will review the summary of transactions.
Yes, this is our summary we've been running since we first began investing the portfolio for the library. So the period that's covered is now from January 1st, 2013 through, we ran this through April 12th of this year. So we started out with a beginning value in this account of $1,224,000 at the top on the right hand. We have, over this period of time, the portfolio has earned almost $192,000 in dividends from the stocks that we own. Just under $84,000 in interest that we've earned from the fixed income portion, the bonds that are in the account. Some money has been added over the years to the tune of $63,542. We have looked at our disbursements as we talk about. There are draws on the portfolio. Over this period of time, we have distributed out $268,870. Took a small amount in foreign taxes. The fees that have been paid total $87,512. And so if we look at what the value of the portfolio was on April 12th, which was $1,759,731, we calculated unrealized gain in the portfolio of $553,230. And then down the bottom, we just do a recap on total return of the portfolio, looking at all of the dividends and interest that have been earned, $275,000, plus our unrealized gain of $553,000. Subtract out our fees, and that gives us a net return for this period of time of $740,817. Any questions about these numbers? On the next page, we just have our summary of disbursements, which, Charlie, I know we do it by fiscal year. We left that, if you take a look, the first one there was July 22nd, but it was a warrant for fiscal year 2020, that 19,167. The rest of these are all fiscal year 21 warrants that have come out of the portfolio. So that total, that is fiscal year 2021. It does not include the 1,967.
Got
So far for fiscal year 21, we've distributed the 34,255. Did you
Okay.
have a question, Charlie?
No, I didn't. This is a useful report. So thanks for that. Understood.
Sure. Great. And we'll continue to update that as we go. Do you have any questions about that? Okay, so I don't know, Paula, if you want to resume on the portfolio holdings, begin on the following page.
Sure. So the next few pages are the specific holdings in the portfolio, and we can kind of talk about these in groups. The top of the page, the money market, that's what we refer to as the cash and equivalents. And then at the bottom of page 20 are all of the high grade corporate bonds. Then we move on to the agency and the treasury bonds. So again, these are all in here because they generate income and they are the best hedge against a down market. The good news on this section is even last year when we had kind of the artificial closing of the economy and the market down, that this piece of the portfolio held up very well. At the bottom of page 21, we begin our diversifying bonds. Here we're looking for bonds. So basically securities that are debt instruments, but that act differently than the treasuries, agencies, and corporates. So we have a high yield fund. On the top of 22, we have a high yield global fund. We have some floating rate notes, some reinsurance bonds, some inflation bonds, some mortgage-backed bonds. So again, things that are a little bit different than the other bonds. Then we also have some international and some emerging markets on the fixed income side. And you can see here again, that piece of the portfolio is about 39% right now. Then we move into the stocks, and the stocks are all subcategorized here by the sector within which they operate. So if you have questions on any of the stocks, please stop. I can let you know kind of some of the better performers. For instance, under materials, Scott's Miracle-Gro was something that we added last March when we thought people would be spending more time at their home and in their yard. And I can be honest, we didn't think it was going to be a year, but we thought that might be a good play. That stock was up 194% in the last year. So in fact, people did do a lot more things in their yard. Sherwin-Williams similarly was up 85% because people are doing a lot of home improvements. In the industrial sector, the best performer there was Union Pacific, which has been up about 82%. Consumer discretionary and consumer staples. Consumer discretionary, again, also had a good year with things like Home Depot with home improvements. And then consumer staples did very well at the beginning of the pandemic when we saw those types of items being purchased, and then that kind of leveled off somewhat. But obviously, you can't go without toothpaste, and people generally don't go without spices and Frito-Lay and Pepsi and shopped at Walmart. Communications, this is where we saw to Alphabet and Facebook when we were looking at that kind of the 5 stocks that had the best 2020. Alphabet and Facebook were 2 of those stocks. Energy has been the hardest hit sector. Now, having said that, many of these stocks are now up 100% from where they were a year ago, but they were hit very, very hard at the beginning of the pandemic because we had a lack of demand and an oversupply. We had OPEC and Russia getting in a price war. So that was an oversupply. And, you might remember from economics, high supply, low demand is not good for pricing. So that has since shifted, but that was certainly a tough 6 or 7 months for the energy stocks. In financials, we did add a new name here. We added Berkshire Hathaway at the top of the financials on page 24. We sold Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo was up about 30% year to date and 52% in the last year. And it had fallen off of our quality list, even though it had a good year. But when it's a company we think is deteriorating in quality, we sell it. And so we put Berkshire Hathaway in its place. Berkshire Hathaway has a number of businesses, the largest of which are property and casualty business, and then Burlington Northern. In healthcare, we added a new name here as well, United Health, which is a managed care organization. They're the largest managed care organization. And we sold CVS. Again, CVS also fell out of our quality list due to some return on equity volatility. So United Health has taken its place. In technology, Microsoft here is one of those names that we saw as one of the top 5 in the portfolio. And then we round out the portfolio on the stock side with utilities, and we have not made any changes there. And then on page 25, we move to the diversifying assets on the equity side, where we have things like managed futures, some mid-cap growth, some real estate, some energy partnerships, some gold. Again, gold held up very, very well during the downturn. We have some dividend-paying stocks with the Payden and Rigel investment, and then mid-cap value. Also international, where we have some real estate, some developed, and some emerging markets. And then if you look at the bottom of page 25, to that kind of halfway over the second column for where it says total, you can see $1,759,000 was our market value at the beginning of the week on Monday. And the last thing we've included in here on page 26, just to let you know where all of your bonds are on the quality scale. You can see here, if you look about 2/3 of the way over, there's S&P and Moody's ratings for all of these bonds. And you'll notice they're all investment grade, so they're all very high quality. And then there's a purchase and sale here for page 27, but we kind of went over that. So, I think if a year ago, if you said, would we be here, we probably would have thought not. So on the market side, things certainly came back very quickly. And hopefully the same will be true of things like growth in the economy and employment as well. But questions for Mary and I?
Was wondering, I was just curious if I might ask and I'm a newbie to this gathering tonight, so I need to say that up front. So maybe a question more for the board, but other than ensuring a good financial return on the investments, are there other criteria, if any, that are used when determining which companies the library invests with?
No, you mean types of companies? Are we thinking socially responsible investing or things of that nature?
Yes.
I do not believe we've had that discussion in my recent history. I don't think, Mary and Paula, I do not believe that we have had that discussion with you, but correct me if you think I'm wrong.
No, we haven't. And I can tell you, as a rule, we don't invest in what are traditionally called the sin stocks. So we don't have firearms, tobacco, liquor. We don't have anything of that nature, just because our investment policy is such that we don't buy those. But we have never kind of had the ESG, the environmental, social governance conversation. And we certainly could, because we do provide that kind of one level down at Rockland. We have become even more in depth at not be able to do it just on the US stock side, but also being able to do it with some of our diversifiers as well. So we are trying to expand that, and we could certainly talk about that. But like I said, right now we've just kind of done the no sin stocks as our first screen.
Thank you. That answers my question.
But if you speak as a group and would like us to present something or send something, just let us know.
Very good. Good question. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks for a good year. Keep it rolling. This has positive impact on our trust fund budget every year. So look forward to computing the next rolling average and seeing what we can spend in the coming year. But thanks, that's a great report, and we appreciate you being here, and thanks for your patience as we learned about little public libraries.
Yeah, that was great.
And,
Thank you all.
we
Let us
will
know if we
probably-
can do anything.
Okay, we'll probably, Mary, I'll email you if we have I imagine that we will distribute the warrant that we vote on tonight, and I will let you know that one way or the other.
Great. I'll watch for your email.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you all.
very much. Have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
well.
Have a good night.
All right, so let us get back on track. Next thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the March meeting. Thank you all. This is I know this is a long meeting tonight, and I appreciate your patience. So you've had a chance to look at the minutes that were circulated in advance. Has anyone noted any corrections, additions, or changes to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will say that we have accepted the, sorry, did I hear a question?
No, I just said I moved to approve the minutes, but that's okay.
Okay, well, since there are no changes, we can accept them as presented. So let's move on to the treasurer's report. Ash?
Okay, I've been presented with warrant number 10. And the total expense for this month is $11,731.40. There are some large items, if you want to go through that. It is number 20, for example, ProQuest. And number 24, Value Line Institution Services. These are annual subscription, I understand, right, Amy? And
Value Line is an annual subscription. I know that. I don't know what ProQuest is. Do you, Amy?
It is another database, and Carol, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's an annual subscription in the reference department.
Get away, kitty.
Any other questions on the items in the warrant? So for our new trustees, this is what we see every month. This represents the bills that have been presented to be paid. And we vote them, we question anything that we don't understand. And typically we'll also see some income, some donations that have come in over the circulation desk or other places, and we'll vote to accept those as well. So anybody have questions on the warrant? All right. Anything else for us, Mahesh?
yes, the Santander Bank, the balance in that account, which is our checking account, is $5,539.86.
So I presume you want us to transfer the amount of the warrant out of Rockland Trust.
Correct, $11,731.40.
So the presentation that we just heard was our endowments and investments portfolio. And typically each month we will draw from that portfolio the amount of the warrant that we are voting on. That's how we fund our budget. So let's see, anything else before we have a vote? Mahesh, you good?
Number one, Advantage Archives. We had the $2,500 gift from Sarah's gift that we used.
Okay, that was the money that we spent on that came from
Yeah.
Sharenza. Okay. All right. Again, for our new trustees, you'll see a budget that we vote every year. Our fiscal year ends June 30th. So this is a budget that covers July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. And you'll see in various categories what we have appropriated at the beginning of that period, what we've spent, what our balance is remaining to be spent, or that accumulated balance, in other words. You'll see the same thing as a tally of gifts and donations that we've received that we can spend. Okay, so I'm going to ask for a vote to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and again, I have to do this by roll call. Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangiarotti,
Yes.
Mrs. Gould,
Yes.
Mrs. Reed.
Missed Reed, but that's fine.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Svensson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lusk,
Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver, yes. Okay, so the treasurer's report is accepted as presented, and we will transfer the amount of the warrant from Rockland Trust into Santander, our operating checking account. This is a guest named Bizou who has come to join the meeting.
I have Felix here too.
Do you? Oh, well, there we go. Okay, so the next thing I have, bear with me, is the director's report. So you've all received the director's report in advance. Amy, do you have anything that you would like to add to that, or highlights that you would like to stress?
I do have some highlights. I wanted to talk about the state aid piece. I looked at the numbers before we got together tonight, and so our total is $81,304, give or take a few cents. I did talk to Chris why there was the jump, and we believe it's because none of the libraries were penalized for not being open the required number of hours, which normally we get a certain percentage of our state aid removed because we don't quite meet the hours, but so we didn't lose that this year. So that's that jump. And then, I mean, highlights. So the new assistant director is starting the end of this month. So Joseph Mora will be joining our team. He's very excited. He's already taken on a few extra assignments at his own. He volunteered. He got a text the other day saying, I'm going to go to this event. So that's fantastic. What else? The budget meeting went well. There was a preliminary budget meeting, went well. The larger grant we did have to pass on, which is unfortunate, but understandable. I think Charlie will talk more about the building update. Mahesh, you said you saw the building today, and honestly, if anyone has questions or wants to come see it, Charlie and I did make a plan. We had Ty Waterman came in one Friday afternoon. He's one of the city councilors, just to kind of see what's going on. I'm happy to do that. Late afternoons are best because that's when the crews are gone. But it is quite a sight to see. I'll be emailing you all links to the draft of the long range plan survey questions. We're just about finalized those. And then I wanted to add that summer reading, I didn't even talk about summer reading, which is our biggest thing right now. And the Friends just very generously offered to sponsor some equipment for the staff to use in the park or wherever. A new canopy to replace one that broke, a sound system, and then a voice amplifier. It is very tricky to hold story time in the park next to a jungle gym. So having that sort of equipment is pretty necessary. The Friends are also hoping to partner with our programs to do some smaller like book sales, bring out the kids' books after story time and get some publicity for the Friends, and also to maybe raise a few dollars. And so big thank you to them. And then also I wanted to let you know the Attleboro Arts Museum, some of you know I'm on the board over there. Their annual meeting is Tuesday, May 11th at 7 p.m. It is virtual this year. And Eileen Straminsky is one of the people they are honoring. They honor 3 community members that have given a lot to the Attleboro Arts Museum each year, and former Board of Trustee member Eileen is one of those people being honored. Actually, as is Ryan Brown, Mrs. Brown's son. He is getting an Emerging Artist Award. He's been taking classes at the museum for quite some time. So there's some big library tie-ins there. And other than that, I won't read the whole report.
Any questions that you have on Amy's report? I had one question, Amy, under budget. You mentioned we were not able to fill a 22-hour staff position, and we've hired someone for 16 hours instead. Is that, I've lost track of what that is. So is that a change in our staffing? Is it something we wanted and didn't get, or what is it?
So Katie, who's here tonight, and Katie, feel free to speak up if you'd like. Katie has been out. This is her second week out right now. She's quarantining, but is healthy. And she is our circulation supervisor. We had someone get promoted from the 22-hour position way back. And when we went to hire it, we were told no, because it's a benefited position. And this was at the beginning of the pandemic, and they didn't want to bring somebody in with benefits because they didn't know if they were going to be laying people off. And Katie's saying I'm correct, so there you go. But they did let us hire a 16-hour position, which is like the next tier down. Like, all the part-timers are strictly at the circulation desk. So 16 hours is the next tier down. We did hire a 16-hour position. But they gave us back this old position and holding off on the 22-hour position.
Okay.
Important to note that it was Jeremy, the budget administrator, that was the first thing he pointed out in the meeting, was that, just so you know, it was me and the mayor and Jeremy saying, just so you know, the library has kind of technically had loss of service, because that's one thing they talk about a lot is loss of service. So it just made me feel good that they are rooting for us and doing what they can. They did not say that we could have that position back, but that we would be on the list if they found money.
Okay. All right. Is that clear? Everyone? Okay, very good. Well, in that case, if there are no questions, we can move forward. So I'll give you some notes on what's going on in the building. I think you know that there is a weekly meeting between the project manager, between the general contractor, the city's budget director, some of the key supervisors in the construction process, the head of the Municipal Building Commission, Amy, and I join in on that on behalf of the trustees as well. So those things are really informative and very well run, and as is this project. Our project so far is on time and under budget. We should be grateful for that. They're going to have the startup of the newly installed mechanical equipment, trying to, preliminary to commissioning it permanently. That's going to happen next week sometime. So it looks like we won't have cooling issues in the summer. We won't have to rent a chiller like we have been doing for the past couple of summers. We should have our new HVA system functioning beautifully with the replacement of windows and skylights and so forth. We're having to provide heat through various places in the building. That seems to be working smoothly with the contractors, being able to meet the needs. Fourth floor is essentially complete, and shortly will be reoccupied, I think. Is that a fair thing to say, Amy? I know Amy's back in her office up there.
So I'm in that one office. We're not sure if TS will move yet or not. The plan was to keep them on the second floor until the elevator was complete. Now, because there's going to be so much demo in both the local history room and what is the tech lab, they have to figure out a new plan. And we are completely emptying the local history room. The things that are in the local history room are, they're one of a kind, obviously. And so they're all being boxed up and moved to a safer, cleaner location in the building until they can be moved back.
Okay, I apologize for my phone ringing. My voicemail will probably go off any second. So let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh, they're about to work on the elevator. It was our dear friend who just moved to Cleveland. So I had to wait for her to speak. Anyway, about to start work on the elevator. That should happen fairly soon. When that's done and the demo is done, then at that point, we should probably start to see staff relocating back to where they came from. Interesting, we've had a conversation. Vic Bonneville started it by taking us down after a board meeting one night into the marble room and showing us cracks in the wall, cracks in the molding, the very ornamental molding around the top of the walls, the edge of the ceiling. And it was an interesting conversation. The project manager said to me, if we don't take care of this now, people are going to criticize us for doing all this work and fixing this building up. And yet we left some of this damage untouched. So he says, I think you should let me get pricing on recasting some of this ornamental molding. We will be patching the cracks and repainting. Apparently that's a very specialized process. We were put off by the notion of having to spend money that we didn't have to try to repair that detail. Now it appears that there's plenty of money in the building budget to accommodate that. So he is in the process of looking into specialists who can take care of all of that work. So we're in a good place right now with that. I wanted you to know that. I'd like to tell Vic at some point that some of these things that he had concerns about are actually being done. The big skylight over the atrium has to come out, and that's going to probably necessitate closing the library for several days here and there. And it won't be safe, working underneath that. So they've also been very diligent about trying to replace and improve the light fixtures all around that area, stressing those areas first, so that when that natural light is cut off due to skylight work and window replacement, the lighting the artificial lighting will be strong. So that's happening. Let me move on to the tech lab. Comcast this week, I think on Friday, is going to be installing fiber optic cable so that this project that we've been talking about for 5 years now is actually starting to happen right now. This is preliminary to our receiving our E-rate approval, which we have no reason to think we won't get, and we should hear from them very soon. But Comcast will make that installation. Our service won't start until July 1st, when theoretically we're on E-rate's nickel and on a new budget year. Incidentally, we put in the cost of cable service, of fiber optic cable service, which is not small. We put that into the municipal budget, and there didn't seem to be any wrinkles there. It looks like that will sail through. I don't recall whether we told you this or not, but our E-rate consultant, who is also the E-rate consultant for the school system in Attleboro, was kind of reorganized out of her company and immediately formed the new company. We've been able to retain her. This was right at the critical moment when it was necessary to submit our E-rate application. So although it would have been nice to have more time to do some more due diligence on her new company, we did elect to stick with her. And so she can follow through what she's already been working on and see it to completion. We're grateful for that. But that's a change that you need to know about. We looked at the contract that we had signed with her previous company. And interestingly enough, we signed a contract for next year, not for this year. So we don't feel that we're going contrary to any previously signed contracts. Last thing I will tell you is that the scope of our E-rate project does not address the server room up in the 4th floor in the front corner, a beautiful old office on the opposite side from the trustees' room. And the building project manager was on our case to take care of that, get that stuff out of there. We have new space in a centralized storage area adjacent to Amy's office. And so we're going to start a discussion on that this Friday with the E-rate team that we've assembled. So hopefully we're going to come out smelling like a rose with all of this, but good progress is happening. And a communication between the E-rate project vendors, the cable people, the Comcast, Harbor Networks, all of this, they're all talking to each other. And in fact, the project manager for the building project is being very helpful. He's providing the other vendors with floor plans indicating where there are chases, where cables and pipes run between floors, where ceilings can't be penetrated and where they can be, all kinds of stuff like this. So we're in a very good place right now with both projects. Any questions on either the tech project or the building? Okay, let's move on. I'm going to table, in interest of time, we were going to review tonight Article 2 of the bylaws and recommend some changes on that. I'm going to put that aside till next meeting when we have more time. Under new business, we have a couple of things. First of all, I asked for volunteers to work on a performance review for the director, the library director, that being Amy. And I had Diane, Beth, and Judy volunteer to look into a format for doing an annual evaluation of our library director. That's a task which should have been ours. The city kind of usurped it in the past, over the past few years, and now acknowledges that, yes, it's our job. So that's what's going on. These three people have been meeting. We will meet again tomorrow afternoon. So I think for tonight's purposes, we can simply say that that is underway. They have samples in hand, and I will be joining them to discuss this, and we'll have more to report at the next meeting. Would you like to add anything to that, Diane?
No, I think you said it all. We've compiled a few samples, and we're talking about them, and we'll get your input.
Okay.
tomorrow.
Long-range planning, we need to have our 5-year plan done and submitted by, is it the end of May or beginning of June, Amy? Anyway.
End of May.
End of May.
Soon it's coming up.
It's coming up fast. I volunteered to help you with that, and I haven't done a thing at this point, so I apologize. But I've been in the middle of several big projects, and I'm trying to get focused on that now. Are we making progress, and how's our timeline looking?
Good. We are going to have, we have good surveys. We have 3 different surveys for staff, one for the general public and one for community partners. I'll send you the links to all those surveys if you have any feedback. And we really want to start emailing them by the end of the week, we're hoping. And really where we need folks' help is to just share the surveys as far and wide as you can. The most important thing is to get as many responses as we can. They're quite similar to what we've done in the past.
In the past, we had volunteers sitting in the vestibule or in the lobby. That's probably not a practical thing to do right now. So it will be, and we also did a mass mailing to the city through real estate tax bills. Was that right? Or utility bills? I forget. And there's not enough time to do that this year, I'm sure. But what I'm sure will be a big help is if we can all network this out to people we know through via email or Facebook or things of that nature, just to get it out there and get some responses and have some tangible results. Is that a fair assessment?
Yep, and we will have hard copies so that if people want them mailed out or if they want to come pick them up, it's available.
Okay. Anything more on long-range planning?
That's it.
Okay, the last thing I have is we listened to Guhan's presentation tonight about the little libraries. I'm a little unclear as to what we as a board can or should do other than give them a pat on the back and say that's fantastic and let us know how we can help. I don't know whether it's appropriate for us to donate money. I guess I can try to find that out. Do you have a sense, Amy, of what he needs from us?
Yeah, when he says sponsorship, I think he just means money. We did talk about that. I did talk about that with him after we gave the same information to the friends and talked to him about maybe you need to talk about like other fundraising projects that you are, that, you know, there's other organizations that give money, Home Depot, Lowe's. We explained to him that it's hard for a nonprofit to give money to.
But maybe not so hard for us to ask the friends if they might consider doing this in support of the library.
Did he
So
ever give you, did he ever give you a figure? An amount of how much he's looking for?
So he only had his total figure in his presentation. That was, I actually couldn't quite tell. He had the price for 4 little free libraries for $400 and something, but then he had another column that said $800 and I couldn't quite figure out. He just really flashed it up very quick on the screen.
Maybe we can find out from
Yeah.
him what he needs. That would be good.
Okay, so are we okay with adopting ownership of these little libraries?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, we should have them all over the city, especially South Attleboro, because they have lost. They never did get another library, and it is a little distance for those in South Attleboro.
My biggest concern was, now they're your responsibility, Amy? Once he's done, I mean, he moves on. So what happens then? I mean, they could become eyesores. They could become, get vandalized. There's a potential there. So I guess, are you okay with it being?
I'm glad he said at the end of his program, he's going to talk to his troop, because I really hope that there's another Boy Scout or parade of Boy Scouts who's willing to work on that with us. But I also think between the friends, volunteers, and we get requests for people to volunteer for the library quite often, and we don't always have projects for them to do, because things require so much training and so much hands-on time with staff. I feel like this might be a great project for a volunteer to do and sort of like be assigned a little free library to keep an eye on it, let us know when they need more books, or let us know if something's been taken out, or and do it that way. I think it's a good way to get somebody involved. I mean, Joanne and Mary Jo from the Friends from the Book Nook, and like, we've got more books, and if it needs to have books replaced, that's an easy thing that we can do. But someone just like checking on it regularly, I think would be a good volunteer project.
Okay. He rewrites more reports than you can imagine walking across my keyboard. Okay. Can I get a consensus by a show of hands whether we support this or not? All in favor, put your hands up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good. Well, I think I would, I'll touch base with you first, Amy, but I think it would be good to say, we think it's a great idea. I think Eagle Scouts are special people,
Mhm.
or those aspiring to be. And I don't want to find too many negatives, frankly. That's just me speaking, and I can be overruled. But
You're right.
I will say now that you voted, when I was in the kids' room, Guhan and his sister came to a lot of the programs that I did. I know the family fairly well. He's the same age as my son. They're just delightful, and it really does, everything he said, like, it really does mean the world to him. And, you know, as a younger kid, he came and spoke at poetry readings and like shared his personal, like, it's wonderful that he wants to, you know, he knows that at such a young age that he wants to give back to the community.
from a nonprofit standpoint, I'm not sure that I feel it's appropriate for us to put library money into a donation unless it's a token donation, if you will, like a $25 or something like that. But I would not hesitate to request that the Friends hear our approval of this project and ask that they might make a donation on our behalf. Do you think that's going too far, or would that be a good thing to do?
Amy, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Attleboro Rotary Club will have money. Ask him to, I can get in touch with him, with the Rotary Club, and
Perfect.
they might do something more.
I can give him your email.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I think that expenses will be covered, but he has
Okay.
to approach the Rotary Club.
Thank you, Mahesh.
All right, so if you can forward me his contact information,
Mhm.
I'll agree with you on what to say, and we'll take care of it. But thank you all for a very long meeting. I don't have anything else. Does anyone have items to bring before the meeting? Tricia?
This, just a minor one. I don't know, we have so many new people on our board, and I'm not sure if they're aware that the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners offers new trustee orientations. And it's about the roles and responsibility of a board member. There are 4, virtual meetings that are scheduled in April, May, and June. So if anybody's interested in that, I'd be glad to share that information with you.
I actually signed up for the June one.
Good,
Yeah, I saw that the other day.
good.
Yeah, there's 4 of them, 4/29 at 10 in the morning, at May 4th at 6 o'clock at night, on the 25th of May at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then June 1st at 6 p.m. So they have them all different times. And I think it's a great idea, be able to do it with Zoom rather than having to go into wherever they would hold it, regionally or even.
I rode down to the Cape to go to my orientation. So.
And it said it's for new members as well as seasoned
Mhm.
board members. So
As well as library staff and library directors and everyone else, so.
yeah.
I want to drive to the Cape. I'm just saying.
Well, no. And then there's one for strategic planning. I didn't know
Yes,
that.
I went to that, and so did Katie, I believe.
There's one on April 22nd for that. That's kind of late if they expect it.
Yeah.
planned. I didn't know why they have it so long, late in the year, but anyway.
I would certainly be interested, and I can go track down the link, but if anyone has one and they're easy enough to forward it to me, I would certainly appreciate it.
I'll be glad to do that. I'll get your email from you,
Thank you,
Charlie.
Tricia.
I
I'll
actually,
put it in the chat.
that brings me to one other point, and that is that I just finished up a directory of trustees, which I will email to you all after this meeting. I think I have everybody's correct email addresses, home phones, and cell phones, and which one they prefer to be called upon. So I will send that out forthwith.
But Charlie, people should be getting these emails. I don't know, as soon as your name gets given to the state, is that, because I get them, but I never signed up for them. So I imagine the NBLC email should be coming to everybody. Is any new members, have you noticed if you're on that list?
I am. But
Yeah,
I
so
took,
those-
I did those workshops, so
Yeah,
I don't.
I did a workshop at the very beginning. I forget how that came about, but now I get the emails. I think you can just sign up.
But I don't know. I don't know if I signed up for it, but I've been getting them. So I'm
Mm.
wondering whether everybody on the board would hopefully get them.
I think
soon.
Christine at some point put us all on there. I don't know.
So the new members probably would need to be
I'll
signed
I'll
up
take
on.
care of that. I'll be sure the new members get that.
Okay.
information.
Thank you, Trish.
Great. Anything else, people? All right. Well, we put a couple of things on the shelf tonight. And we will resume next time. Next meeting is scheduled for May 12th. Wish Amy a nice vacation week next week. Library's closed on Patriots Day.
Mhm.
Carry on. Meeting
Thanks,
adjourned.
Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you, Charlie.
Bye.
Nice to see you, David.
Take care.